Um, in preparation for the upcoming Congress, we have been working on connecting the agenda of digital public goods with the implementation of the UNESCO recommendations for OER. If we look at the key definitions, and this is quite interesting because this is quite a new agenda, when we talk about digital public goods, we talk about the infrastructure and the assets in a digital format that provide universal access and sustainable development. In the same line as the idea of digital commons, which is basically shared resourced, collectively managed and governed by a community, ensuring sustainable and equitable access and use for the infrastructure and the resources. In lies with the idea of a global digital compact that fosters, promotes, and encourages digital cooperation in issues like data privacy, internet governance, and of course, management of those digital assets, those digital public goods. And this all comes on under the umbrella of the Roadmap for Digital Cooperation, which not only promotes digital inclusion and connectivity, but also ethical digital transformation to achieve the SDGs. So it resonates very much with the ethos, the philosophy, and the values of OER. So in terms of the agenda of digital public goods and how it aligns very nicely with the UNESCO recommendations for OER, the idea is to have a further or strengthen our commitments for OER to promoting access and sharing of knowledge, good quality knowledge, promote and support the US SDG common agendas to advocate for shared digital resources and the collaboration and collaborative management and governance. Looking at two very specific points, support the idea of OERs that it comes as a digital public good, so it benefits the whole society. But looking at commitment number one, especially, leave no one behind. If we look in terms of the OER recommendations and how it aligns with the UN Commons Agenda and the achievement of SDG 4, so education for all, there are 5 key points in which we need to reflect and we need to basically think about the strategies for future development and strengthening the agenda of open education, of OER. Further investing in training programs to help educators to enable the use of OER and also the use of AI in a responsible manner, understanding issues, for example, in terms of data protection, data biases, and copyright, which is very important. Develop supportive policies that not just promote the use of a development of OER, but fosters a culture of openness and collaboration amongst institutional educations, with governments, with other stakeholders that can contribute to developing and enhancing education in our context. And that includes, for example, promoting and ensuring inclusive and equitable access to OER, providing robust technological infrastructures that also are able to support those that live in low connectivity zones, addressing challenges like data governance, environmental impact. So we have platforms that are robust, reliable, but also allows and promotes connectivity to those in, for example, rural areas or displaced areas. And in the same sense, think about sustainability to maintain those open infrastructures, so repositories or platforms that help us to develop responsibly AI resources. They have shared governance models to ensure that our work is transparent, is accountable, and secures the data management, thinking that our learners are children, our students, and sometimes vulnerable populations. So we think about how we're going to promote international cooperation to promote not just collaboration in terms of developing OER through communities of practice, but also engage with research, shared projects, and advance shared governance of AI and educational approaches where actually AI can effectively benefit the students and the teachers, minimizing the impact in the environment. So the ROMX framework provides us with, again, 5 elements that help us to engage OER responsibly with emerging technologies, in this case, artificial intelligence. So when we think about how we're going to enable and how we're going to work with AI effectively to develop OER, to translate OER, to contextualize OER for our learners, we need to think about these 5 elements, which are rights in terms of protecting security, intellectual property, and making secure digital learning environments. How we foster or engage in promoting and fostering openness to share and promote collaboration with our students, with our colleagues, with all the schools at national level, with the civil society, with international organizations, in a way that everyone can effectively participate. So we ensure that the OERs that we develop, enhanced by AI, for example, are accessible to all the learners, regardless of the socioeconomic background, their physical barriers, disability issues, or the zones where they live. And in this case, to make those assessments to ensure that our OERs are in line with international rights schemes, are open and secure for everyone and are accessible, we need to have further conversations, engage with governments, engage with educational institutions, with private sector, and with the civil society to have multi-stakeholder participation in terms of development and dissemination of OER, but also in terms of enhancing our capacity building schemes. And in this sense, also cross-cutting indicators are very, very important, because we need to empower communities in terms of gender equality, but also children's safety, but very importantly as well, to mitigate the impact, the environmental impact of emerging technologies, because they have extremely high water consumptions. So our call to action, our proposal, and it's something that we will be further discussing at the Dubai OER Congress, is to develop AI, artificial intelligence approaches that ensure transparency, privacy, and security, that makes it equitable for all. That we promote sustainable licensing models to protect authorship and ensure transparency in terms of open licensing, so everyone knows who's the author, who are the authors, and under which umbrella communities this license is developed. Ensure that OER is accessible for vulnerable communities, including those with learning disabilities, those living in rural areas, displaced communities, but also is very respectful of indigenous knowledge. We want our cultures to be preserved and respected. In this sense, we also need to promote environmental sustainable practices within digital public infrastructure, digital public goods, to reduce energy consumption, for example. But to achieve all this, we need to strengthen our international efforts to address the current challenges in OER and emerging technologies, ensuring that we all are in understanding of copyright compliance, for example. We ensure that our stakeholders, so students, families, educators, content designers, are also understand open licensing, copyright, and data protection, because we need to make sure that students are learning in a safe digital environment. We also need to recognize the role of OERs in achieving SDGs to promote responsible and scalable developments for OER, and promoting responsible use of AI and data governance. Make sure that we follow and we train others in understanding responsible and ethics of AI, that when our educators know how to use AI effectively to further develop OER, integrating those AI responsible principles and our own government's guidelines to develop inclusive and equitable education, just to ensure that no one is left behind. So in order to promote the discussion in this presentation will be shared, we need to look at a rubric of elements concerning bias algorithms, energy consumption, interoperability standards, intellectual property rights and licensing issues, and how we're gonna narrow the current digital divide to ensure that OER actually and effectively continues to promote access to education for all. That would be for me, and I'm looking forward to follow this conversation. Thank you very much.